This is the People Before Politics show, broadcast every Sunday at 6 p.m. Hosts Damon K. Jones and AJ Woodson bring you the news that impacts our community. Join us for unfiltered, unapologetic coverage of the stories that matter most. Black Westchester Magazine presents the People Before Politics show, the news with the black point of view.
Well, but I mean, look at where we are.
That care enough to get involved, like seriously, like, you know.
Well, I think what's happened today is, I won't say that there aren't brothers.
I said not enough.
Because I believe there are some, but here's the problem, and we're having the same problem politically in New York. Really, these are far better days than those days. Let's think about those days.
Much more money.
We had to deal with Rudolph Giuliani as mayor. And before him, Ed Koch, and we had David Dinkins for short 4 years. But look at where we are. We got Hakeem Jeffries, a young man who's the nephew of Dr. Leonard Jeffries, and he was in college then, but he was conscious and he was involved. Now he's the he's the highest ranking Democrat. He's the highest ranking Democrat in Washington. Then you got Eric Adams as the mayor, and Eric in those days was Sergeant Eric Adams, and he was involved in every movement, every protest, every struggle. He's the mayor of New York City. You got Tish James. You got this one, Jumaane Williams. I mean, these guys, Jumaane and Hakeem are younger than us. And but I think what's happening is some of these people don't have an appreciation. We got the Speaker of the House, of the Assembly in Albany, the Speaker of the Senate, both black, okay? And we got all this black political power, much more than we ever had before. But unfortunately, we don't have a black agenda. And these people are either beholden to, some of the black elected officials are beholden and afraid of the left wingers, the DSA, the Democratic Socialists, the young New Kings Democrats, and all these young whites who moved down to the city from Scarsdale and Bronxville and all these different places and have tattoos. And now they call themselves living in Bed-Stuy and Williamsburg. and they really think they're doing something, but they're taking over the politics of these communities because 30% whites that are well organized in a community like Bed-Stuy, Ocean Hill, and Brownsville, they can actually control the politics of the community because our people are apathetic. They don't vote. They don't participate. And of course, all of these different agendas. And so I feel like these are the best of times, but they're also the worst of times. When I hear black leaders calling for Eric Adams to step down, that really shows me that we've acquired this political power, but it's not being put to use for the African-American community, and other people are obviously pulling the strings, and these black elected officials are doing the bidding of other groups. Again, sometimes it's the far left, sometimes it's the National Democratic Party, who I'm convinced they are stuck on stupid. They lost the national election because they found the most marginal issues that affect the least amount of people, but it's a big issue with people who live in Cambridge and Boston and Westchester and the Upper West Side and Greenwich Village and Soho and Brooklyn now, which is the so-called hip capital of America. But they lost the country, and so now they're angry at Trump. And because Trump had the unmitigated gall to say to Eric Adams, I think you got a raw deal. I got one, and I think you got one too. Now they're angry at Eric. I mean, Eric was facing 45 years in jail for nothing. I mean, we haven't seen any smoking gun. He's not Menendez that had gold bars in his refrigerator. I mean, he's not the brother in D.C. that they had the pictures of him taking envelopes of cash. I mean, what is it? I mean, what are they saying that he did? At the end of the day, where's the beef? I mean,
he got an upgraded ticket.
6 to 10 years before he became mayor. I mean, first of all, uh, conventional wisdom was that Eric Adams didn't have a snowball's chance in hell in becoming mayor. So
Right.
nobody would have invested in him 6 to 10 years earlier looking for a quid pro quo. Also, there was a recent Supreme Court case, and that's what people need to understand. This stupidity. You know, black people have what the right calls, they call it for the white left too, Trump derangement
I mean, the
syndrome. Okay.
syndrome.
Yeah, and I'm convinced that that's real because people who don't like Trump, they have a visceral, irrational disgust and hate for Trump. And that's the only way you can get black people in New York looking at all of this political power, holding on to the city hall. Eric appointed the first black woman to be commissioner of the largest police force in the United States. He did that. First black woman deputy mayor. And the list goes on and on. Minority and women's MBWA, that brother, Michael Garner is a brother. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on of black empowerment. And the only thing that could be calling for black people, making black people call for Eric to step down, he needs to go, is an irrational hatred of Trump, but also they are doing the bidding of the National Democratic Party, which I'm sure don't care anything about black empowerment. If you notice, the Democrats, when they lose the national elections, they just want black people to stay angry and irrational for 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, but just keep them mad until we get back in office. And so no black leaders have the sense, and Eric is the only one to say, hey, this is the president. For 4 years, this guy's going to be the
Exactly.
president. That's what
Yeah.
George Latimer's doing. Nobody is cursing him out for doing that. That's what most elected officials are doing. Most of the people who Gavin Newsom sat down with Trump out in California when he came out there to talk to him about the fires. I mean, he's the president. That's just a fact on the ground. So whether
Right.
you like him, whether you can't stand him or whatever, these are irrelevant concerns right now. The man is president. And so the mayor of New York City has to deal with the president. But to say that
It's
he's in the
just
back,
like that Republican governor had to deal with Obama when they had in Jersey. What's the big dude? Yeah,
Christie,
Yeah.
you know,
and they got mad at him saying
and he
that
got mad at him
helped
because he
him.
hugged Obama on the tarmac.
But he did
He
a
did
whole
what he
lot
had
for
to
his,
do. It's
he
just
did
like
but he did what he did for his state though, and they
ab-
were desperate need.
absolutely, and
It
that's
should
his
be
job.
gratitude. It should
And
be
that's
some
his
kind of gratitude.
job. And that's his
Yeah.
job as a president. And President Trump just came in a big way for middle class New Yorkers, working class New Yorkers. He stopped, and his DOT looks like it's going to stop this damn congestion pricing.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
delivering in a big way. And the Governor Murphy of New Jersey, a Democrat, what did he do? He sent a thank you letter to President Trump. Why? Because, hey, man, you helped my people. My people pay $18 to come into the city. They already tax our incomes. We have business owners who live in New Jersey, and now we're going to pay 18 and another $9 every single day. No, and so the governor understandably thought that that was an outrage. He took MTA to court, and he was not caught up in Trump derangement syndrome. He may disagree with Trump on 99% of the policies, but on that policy where there was common ground, he understood, hey, Mr. President, thank you. Okay. And that's the level of maturity that black politicians have to have. But it's hard because black people are so irrational. That's why programs like this are so important because we got to educate our people politically.
That's right. That's
That
right.
politics is not about how you feel. It's not about how you,
What's funny
I
about
got off on you in Congress. Yeah. Did you
what's
hear
funny
my
about that?
speech? I
Black
mean,
people
that is,
didn't have no black people
what's
didn't
that?
have no problem with what's his name, McCain, when he was the no vote that helped save
Absolutely.
nobody.
Yeah.
Black people had no
He
problem that
defied his party. Right.
yeah.
But we've got this very stunted development when it comes to politics. It's very stunted. We're emotional. We that politics confused with religion. I believe in him. No, you don't believe in any politician. You do transactional business with them. I hate them.
Exactly.
No, you don't hate anybody in politics. There's no permanent friends, no permanent
And no
enemies, because you
permanent
might have
enemy.
to work together on this or that. It's just a transactional, it's our system of exchanging goods and services. It's not religion. It's nothing to believe in. It's just something to study carefully with a clear mind and make good deals. That's all it
That's
is.
it. That's it. That's
That's
it.
all it is.
That's it. That's it. But I mean,
But yeah, go ahead.
I and me and AJ talked about it, in my articles, I try to say, if Trump, his tax cuts, how can Black America benefit? Because we don't have that conversation.
Right.
Right. Because it's always, oh, this and that. I'm like, no, you could benefit. This is politics. You have to figure out, how do you benefit from what he's doing? Because there's a lot of people are going to benefit from it. But when we are not talking about it, like I was telling a friend of mine, which I wish I knew about it, that he had that Bitcoin, right? That coin that he sold for $6 when he was running, and it went up to $400 when he won. He just that little knowledge, people became millionaires.
And see,
because they wasn't hating on him.
Yeah. See, and it starts with what you just said. Like it starts with even being free enough, coming off the Democratic plantation, looking back and making sure just don't have to worry about what Massa thinks. And just for a second to say, how are this man's policies of benefit to me? Or how can we make them of benefit?
Exactly.
Or how can we seek benefit? But to even ask the question, the emotionalism saying, oh, well, he loves Trump. I don't love Trump. I just got rich off of him, his policies. That's what your friend, that's just what happened. And so if we can really continue, and I'm making light and making a little fun and mockery, because I really want Black people to see how ridiculous, how absurd, how farcical it is for us to be 96% in one party, or 95%, whatever the cumulative number was. Black men, and especially in some of the swing states, we got off the plantation. Black women are still, they still haven't figured out that it's not actually a good thing to have all of your votes in one basket. Maybe they need to go to Vegas or once or twice, or Atlantic City, take all of their money and put it on one bet. And when they lose, then they'll begin to understand why you have to spread it around. Okay.
Yeah, spread it around.
They put 96% of their vote in the Democratic Party, and they said they saved democracy. But when Biden left office, he saved Liz Cheney, but he didn't save Tish James with a preemptive pardon. He didn't save Fonnie Willis with a preemptive pardon. Black women say they saved democracy, but Joe Biden and the Democrats definitely did not save them when they needed it.
That's right.
You know what's funny? So I'm watching the Knicks game, and I wanted to make this point because sometimes you got to talk in sports metaphors. We want to give Black people attention. So every year they change the rules on what's a foul and what's not a foul or whatever, and then like what you was able to do last year, you can't do this year. So we all that watch the game, we all go, well, these basketball players that are getting all their money, they need to adjust to whatever the new rules are now.
Absolutely.
Like instead of complaining all the time, we expect them, and this is what, and I'm talking all the Black people that watch basketball, we expect them to make the adjustment to whatever the new rules are now, and stop complaining about what it used to be. But that's exactly what we do with politics.
Right.
We don't adjust to, like, like I saw somebody who was like, we were talking about somebody's boss being fired. He said he was in the military all his life. You always get a new commanding officer.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And then however that commanding officer decide to command things,
Absolutely.
you have to make the adjustment and stuff. So they were just talking about, like the commissioner that he worked for all this time being fired. He's like, I've been used to that all my life. You know what I'm saying? He's had to make that adjustment.
Absolutely.
We don't know how to pivot and to make the adjustment in politics.
And part of that, yes, and part of that is the fault of the Black political establishment.
Absolutely.
Instead of really educating Black people to the political system, I guess in the beginning, maybe in the 1960s, when Stokely Carmichael and John Lewis and Cleve Sellers were in the Deep South, and you were dealing with largely folks who were illiterate and unlettered, and they didn't have a real grasp of the system. I guess it was easier to talk in basic stark terms that they could understand. Jesus taught in metaphors for the agrarian people that he taught. He taught parables about sheep and goat, but it really wasn't about sheep and goat, but you had to access them somehow. They had no knowledge of the mysteries and eschatology and all of the higher theological concepts. And so in those days, racism, if you don't do this, they're going to put y'all back in chains, as Joe Biden said. But in 2025, that's not the way we should be talking to our people about politics. I mean, we are an intelligent people. We can be taught that, the importance of local elections, the importance of splitting your vote. We can show them groups like how, we can go through the results of the election and show. Now, see, all of you voted 96% for the Democrats, but look at what women did. They split their vote, 64. Look at what Latinos did. They split 45 here, 55 there. Look what Jews did, 65% here, 30%. Now, ask yourself, why are all those other groups splitting their vote and we are the ones doubling down on stupid? And I hate to break it to you, it has nothing to do with your loyalty, has nothing to do with fighting any struggle, has nothing to do with fighting against the KKK or Project 2025. It has to do with intellectual retardation, a sort of stunted political understanding. Is sort of doubling down on feelings rather than thinking. We saw a great fight last night, and I was rooting for Lamont Roach because I grew up with his uncles and his family. The Roach boys were some bad dudes, and so I knew, when roaches come to fight, they fight, and but it was a very, Lamont was very cautious throughout that fight because of Tank's ability and how he can, knock you out. And so he fought a perfect technical fight. He walked him down. He stayed in front of him. He was most aggressive, but he was tight. And my point is, and I'm saying all that to say, is that you have to be technical. You have to be a tactician. Everything we do politically has to have meaning. And yes, I understand why in Mount Vernon, 90% of Black people are going to be Democrats. I get that.
He want to set me afire, man.
Well, no, but I understand why in New York City it makes more sense for us to be Democrats. But nationally, we have to have a different kind of formation. I've been pushing a concept called the 70-30 plan, where 70% of Blacks nationally stay in the Democratic Party, okay? Because in the Democratic Party, since Reverend Jackson ran in '84, we've made tremendous progress. And Black people don't understand. It's only since that '84 campaign when Jesse said, I may not make it over, or if I make it over the line, I'll be bringing wagons with tax assessors, governors, and state assembly people. But he also said in that campaign, the Democratic Party is the best place for us to build. But we had to build in that party. I remember him fighting against double primaries. I remember him fighting against Boll Weevil, conservative Democrats. I
Mm-hmm.
remember him fighting against winner-take-all primaries. It was a fight to get to
Right.
where we are in the Democratic Party. They didn't just welcome us.
Right.
They didn't just
Right.
welcome us. And if we
Right.
did that in the Democratic Party, we can also do that in the Republican Party. I think about 30% of blacks, we need to keep it nationally 70-30.
Mm-hmm.
70-30. So in states like, for example, in Brooklyn, it doesn't make sense to be a Republican. But in South Carolina, a state controlled by Republicans, blacks should up their numbers in the
Right.
party. Or Georgia, up your numbers in the party.
That's
Okay.
that's my parents, when I was 7, moved to Central Islip, Long Island.
Yeah.
And they had in black, it was all black
Nassau County, that's right.
Suffolk County, and it was all black this district. But so my mother was head of the neighborhood association.
Right.
And they told everybody, because the Republicans were running things, that for them to make any real change, they all had to register as Republicans. So
That's
they
right.
could vote. So this is in the 70s. So
Absolutely.
they were all registered. They were Democrats, but they were registered Republicans so that they could vote in those primaries.
Yes.
And they could get people in that kind of had their interests at heart and keep people out that didn't.
Yes.
You know.
And it's the same. It was the same in Nassau County. You had Big Jim Garner was the mayor, big brother that wore a cowboy hat. And a lot of those city jobs that black people had in Hempstead and Roosevelt, it's because they were active in the Republican Party. In politics, again, it's tactical. It's not getting emotional. It's like, I got to wait for opening, and wherever the opening is, I have to take it. And so that kind of strategy, that kind of strategic movement is what we have to be able to do with our votes, rather than just all get we just mad and we get on election day we're gonna stop Trump, and I mean it's ridiculous, and it doesn't matter. It's not Trump. We do this to every Republican. Whether it's Mitt Romney, with Mitt Romney, he only cares about the 1%. With George Bush, he doesn't care about us. With Ronald Reagan, he's 3-6. I remember older people saying, that Ronald Wilson Reagan, that's 666. That's the devil. All of this metaphysical,
I remember
all
that,
of
the
this
666
sorcery and voodoo and all of these
Yeah.
things, trying to analyze a political system that requires very sober, tactical, technical minds, so that we can get everything out of the system that is designed to give. I will say this, our Jewish friends, they...
Where you go?
I want to be, while we waiting for him to come back in, everybody, if they remember the first Republican primary that Trump was a part of, what did he say when they were saying something? He said, I put money in all of your pockets on both sides.
Yep.
Like he was already he was putting money in the Democrats, and if they won, then you know what I'm saying, he had it in, and he put money with the Republicans. And you do diversify. Same thing with the stock market. The first thing they tell you is to diversify your stocks.
That's what I've been saying. That's what I've been saying for the longest. I'm like, you can't get the amount of respect from a two-party system if you're only in one party. I'm just going to keep on saying it. I'm just going to keep on saying it.
Joe Pinion, one of his things was when they were saying that when he ran, they said they would have voted for him if he was a Democrat. He said, we need people like me in the Republican Party. You know what I'm saying? And it was just like a lot of people weren't feeling him on that. You know what I'm saying? Or why he was remain Republican and they couldn't vote for him. I was at those candidate forums, and many of the people that were the Democrats of Yonkers, they were all saying, if he was a Democrat, I'd vote for him. So they were liking everything he said over the Democratic candidate, but they couldn't vote for him because he was Republican.
I think New York is going to go red. I really think.
Well,
New York,
let's not forget that. I keep saying, let's not forget. Let's see. People don't remember history. We're not that long ago. We had Republican governors, and here in Westchester County, to be even more specific, Black Westchester has been around 10 years. When we started 10 years ago, there was a Republican county exec. We're not even talking about decades ago. We're talking about in the last, this is the last 7-8 years. There was a Republican. So let's not forget, let's not act like it can't happen.
Right.
No, and the only reason Astorino lost is because he screwed everybody that helped him.
Right.
That's the only reason Lattimore won, because he screwed the Independence Party, he screwed the Conservative Party. He wasn't going to get the working family. So the payback was they all supported Lattimore. You know, and if he wouldn't have tried to take over the Independence Party, he would have still been county exec. And that's the sad thing about it, man. Like, Westchester County is a Republican county. I don't care what people say. They just use the Democratic Party because it's just and the Republicans, I don't know, like, they just scared to talk to Black people. I'm like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, talk to Black people.
Well, I think part of what happens is that's why I'm advocating that we bum rush the Republican Party, at least 30%. No, really, because I mean, like, again, if you haven't been around long enough, that's what we did with the Democrats. People forget George Wallace was a Democrat. Okay, people forget George Wallace was a Democrat. The Dixiecrats were Democrats. Lyndon Johnson was a racist. It didn't matter. When he was convicted to pass civil rights legislation through the civil rights movement and the insistence of the civil rights movement. He didn't just change. He knew he had to do it, and he did more than Kennedy. But the point was, we had to bump the Democrat Party. This is what Blacks have to understand. Stop this ignorance. You don't have to be a Democrat. You weren't born with a Democratic DNA. But we became Democrats. We've made great progress in that party to an extent, but we have to do the same in both parties. Let me tell you something. The Jewish community in Westchester County, same as New York City. You got some who are liberal, okay? You got some who are conservative. But guess what? No matter who wins, they can go and sit and talk to those folks about their issues. That's where we want to be as Black people. We're not mad at anybody. We're not disrespecting any we might run hard against you. You know, most of us are Democrats, but when you win, we're going to salute you. Okay, now you're our president. This is what we want to do. But in order to do that, we got to have some Blacks over there. You know, when you hear big mouths like Roland Martin and these people who love to intimidate, you know, these are the enforcers, you know. Anybody that, they just want to intimidate people. And so any Black that dares venture over there to talk to the Republicans, you're Uncle Tom, you're a coon, you're this and that, Jamal Bryant and all these people. And Jamal Bryant, he needs to figure out how he can stay in Baltimore, because last tape I saw, that brother told him to get out of the damn neighborhood, and he didn't even protest. The brother was shocked that he was willing to leave so easily. He said, "It's that easy?" And he just walked down the street. But
I saw that video.
Yeah, you call young Black people at the White House coons. Well, then you're a coon when you're there under the Democrats. They're not doing anything differently than what you do when the Democrats are in power. Okay, that's why there's a group out of Chicago, serious group of Black people. Painted
Chicago Red.
Chicago Red. And these are serious Black people. And they are sick and tired of the Democrats, how now that mayor went broke. He broke the city on immigrants. And they have been standing up to him and the Democratic Party. And the truth is, the only reason Eric Adams got indicted is because Eric, like every other Democrat, first day he went down there to welcome those migrants and said New York doesn't treat its migrants like Texas does. But the smartest politician in the last 5 years is that little governor in that wheelchair down in Texas. That guy is a genius. He sent those people up to Martha's Vineyard where all these liberals are, and sent them all. He said, "Okay, you want you," and guess what? Within a year, Eric saw his city going broke, and that's when he began to say to the federal government, "Look, man, you have to fix the border problem. Cities can't handle this.
That's right.
And that's when they told him, "Be a good Democrat.
That's right.
This is a gallstone. It'll hurt, but it'll pass." And then he went down there to meet with the president. And next thing you know, they were raiding some of his people here in New York. He had to fly back. That was intentional. That was
Yeah.
political. That was a political hit on him for standing up. So I'm just saying, I hope people will not be insulted because I'm just trying to make light of it. We just got to be a little bit more, it's pugilism. Fighting is like, you remember how girls used to fight growing up? They drop their head and
Yeah.
just start
Right.
swinging.
That's what we're doing, brother.
Yeah,
But see,
that's what we're doing politically.
but you know
We're
what's
not
crazy?
involved in pugilism. There's no science to it. The sweet science is just gone.
I was talking to a friend of mine, and a lot of times people don't know the history of a person. They just see him, oh, you just out there, you doing this, you doing that, but they don't know the history of doing it. And I'm like, and I said, you know what? I'm starting to think for 33 years I've been lied to. You know what I'm saying? Because you out here fighting this fight, but then you think about it. All right, we jumping on this, we jumping on that issue, but we're not moving forward because we're not fighting the right issue, for our people in the whole. And we haven't been talking about economic development, doing for ourselves, all the things the messenger was talking about, all the things Amos Wilson, Dr. Claude Anderson, all our pioneers,
right,
in doing for self. We haven't been discussing that, and now we're never even discussing it. Because like I was saying earlier, I don't know who made this boycott list. Who made the list? Like,
right.
People are just sharing it. Like, who made the list? Because there's a lot of times there's big money behind something like that.
You're absolutely right. But you have to have been around long enough to know that these boycotts, anytime a preacher calls a boycott, and there has been no series of, what's that? And there's been no long series of meetings with a large number of people, then to look suspicious and askance at that. This thing about Joy Reid. How many times are we going to have a black host that loses their show before all of us get together and say, we need some black networks like you're doing, like I'm trying to do? Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. I remember when they had that conversation with the black leadership in 2010, Tavis Smiley, and the minister was there, Minister Farrakhan. And he reminded us that in the 40s, when we were going to march on Washington, the issue was jobs and justice.
Exactly.
In 1963, when we marched, the issue was jobs and justice. Every commemorative march since then has been jobs and justice. And so it's very simple. Booker T. Washington, cast your buckets down where you are. Amos Wilson, all these people. Thomas Sowell. Most black people have never heard the names. Thomas Sowell, Walter Williams. These are important people. They're not Uncle Toms. They're people we may not agree with them on everything, but what they understand about economics is this. There are no easy solutions in economics. There are no solutions. There are trade-offs. And the fact of the matter is, the government, even if it wanted to, cannot solve the problems of African Americans. We've got to do like every other group and simply build small businesses, build institutions, stick with it, keep the money in our community, and that's how we will grow. That's how we'll leverage.
That's right.
We'll have some small political victories, and like Eric is doing, you empower people, but we cannot rely on the government as an employment agency, because that's just not going to ultimately bear fruit. And we got strong on those good government jobs, but we should have been building institutions and
That's right.
buying land and doing other
That's
things
right. That's right.
with that. Yeah.
It's funny because that's the biggest way to end the movement is give them government jobs. There was a scene like a brother went out in the street and he saw one of the brothers in the struggle. He's like, yo, what happened to all the brothers in the struggle? He said they all got government jobs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now they can't criticize the government. Now they don't want to damage. They got to take some pension and some benefits, and they don't want to ruin all of that now. So now you silence them.
And I'm at a point, AJ, where I'm like, it's not even about criticizing people, because at the end of the day, we've been one of the things we've become very adept at is criticizing the government, okay? But what we have not become very good at is building institutions.
That's
And
right.
at the end of the day, some of the most eloquent people in the world have talked about racism and discrimination. We are not going to out-articulate some of the people who have already come before us. They said everything that could be said, but things change. Keep in mind that Thomas Sowell is a Manhattan Institute, and he thinks a certain way, so he may have someone to answer to. Well, see, that's what I'm talking about. Can you guys see me?
Oh, no, you just turned your thing off, brother.
We can hear you, but you turned your camera off.
Now we can't hear you or see you, brother.
While we waiting for my brother, for those who are tuned in, you're watching an extended overtime session of Black
Exactly.
the People Before Politics radio show.
Exactly.
We have great conversations. Sometimes we go into the like Bill Maher, he has his overtime. After his regular show, there's overtime. We in our overtime right now. Like we in overtime.
Yeah, I'm going to chop all this up and just put them on different ones.
You know, it's a lot of things that he said, and I didn't want to interrupt him. We have to diversify. We have to build. Like, one of the most important things, and I've had this conversation with a lot of key Democrats, local and bigger, they benefit. A lot of our Black politicians benefit on our voters being misinformed and uninformed.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you keep them that way, then, you know what I'm saying? They it is that kind of like, we got to vote, we got to stay, we got to vote for the Democrat. We got to vote for that Black woman so she could be first. We got to vote for that man so he could be the first Black man or whatever. But it's like one of the things that we got criticized for going 10 years ago, they said we wouldn't be here 6 months or a year. We started educating the people. We started, bringing the candidates on and asking them questions that they wasn't getting nowhere else, so that our viewers and those who was following us could make more informed decisions at the ballot box. We've exposed a few people who talked a good game but wasn't about it. You know what I'm saying? And we got fooled. We helped a few people get in, and it wasn't what they said they was, and we helped their ass get right back out. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. But Richard Thomas, we kicked his ass right the fuck out the video. Where he go, man? Damn, Conrad.
No, the device is not connected now. But so we have to, and when you have institutions, again, this is not about Black Westchester. This is not about me, telling people to advertise and stuff. But when you have an institution that's holding you down, you support it. We, for good or for bad, we had our first Black congressman, and he was speaking about a lot of Black issues that were not being discussed before. And they tried to make it sound like, he only cares about Black issues. And AIPAC and other groups spent record number of money to get his ass out. More money than has been in any congressional race in the history of the Congress, of congressional races. That's not just because he was a bad dude or whatever. He was a threat. And see, we fell for the banana in the tailpipe because I actually did some phone banking for him, and some of his diehard voters, supporters were saying, "Oh, well, he disrespected, he didn't agree with my president. I can't vote with him now. He went against my president." And it's like, yo, you had a man who was fighting for issues that were was he perfect? No, nobody is. Did he fumble the ball on the 5-yard line a few times? Yes, absolutely. But he was fighting for issues. I'm talking about Jamal Bowman right now. He was fighting for issues that were not being fought about, and was bringing up conversations that were not being discussed, and was fighting for marginal groups that were not being fought for. And they spent a lot of money to get him the hell out real quick. And I say that about we don't support our own. When we have somebody who's doing the work, we don't support them. And then when they're not there no more, and someone that doesn't look like us is there, then we're like, oh, we need somebody, a person of color. We need somebody.
Yeah.
You had that. When you had that, you support it.
Right. You had it. And what it amazed me that Lattimore had the mitigated goal to stand there on TV. I think it was on news. It was the News 12 debate, to point at a black man and say, "You just look out for black and brown people." And these pastors stood silent. Organizations throughout Westchester in the district didn't say anything, and they just disappeared. And I said, wow, we always say we want an elected official. Whether we agree with his politics or not, one thing Jamal did was give organizations that never got funded before, he funded them. He brought a lot of money to the district. But he purposely put a lot of money in black communities on purpose.
Marginalized communities that were not getting the money before.
But black people didn't show out. They didn't even show out. And I said, wow, man, like we don't know what we want as black people.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad. I would just say this. First of all, I told you to leave Ernie Davis alone. I told you he was the greatest mayor in the history of Mount Vernon. But you would never have had to get rid of Richard Thomas had you not put him in. That's the first thing.
Yo, Conrad get me every time we talk about that, man.
I wasn't in on that conversation. You didn't tell me, so
no. Say like take a guy like Jamal Bowman. Like he's brilliant. He's a lot of things. But see, what's happening with our politicians is that being a black politician is no longer good enough for our black politicians. Since Obama got elected in 2008, every black politician thinks in terms of coalitions, thinks in terms of appealing to a broad base. And what most of them find, like the Squad, and they find camaraderie with the white radical left, okay? And then others find a camaraderie with this money or that money. Richie Torres got his handlers, but it's never an authentic black politic as we used to have it.
Exactly.
And until we get back to that, see, there are a lot of things that Jamal Bowman could have been addressing in terms of African American issues. He got caught up in some other things. And so my point is, as black people, we got to go back to the basics. We got to go back. David Greaves did a great film on Gary, Indiana, 1972, the Black Political Convention. It's a very important film. In 1972, we only had about 400 black elected officials. After the Gary Convention, shortly after that was 4,000, and then it's just been magnifying exponentially. So we've got to have, number one, more than black politicians, we have to have a black politic, a black agenda.
Exactly.
That's what's more important, because if we don't, we'll have what we have now in New York. Hakeem Jeffries, Eric Adams do not get along like they should, okay? They should be sitting together, strategizing on behalf of black people in this region, okay? That should be mandatory, okay? But this one's over here, and this is what we've got to stop. We've got to come together and put an agenda forth. And someone mentioned Thomas Sowell is a part of the Manhattan Institute. That's the other thing we do. Everything is conspiratorial. It's okay, yes, he's a conservative black. So he's not going to be with a liberal think tank, okay? So
Right, exactly.
it's not sinister to know that you have some blacks who are conservative. You just have to understand the perspective they come from, okay? And at the end of the day, work together, regardless of your perspective, to push us forward. We can do it. Other groups have differences. You know, there's not one group that's monolithic. People have differences, but they also know how to come together for what's important.
Right. I fell in love with Thomas Sowell when the interviewer asked him because he started as a Marxist.
Yeah, he was a Marxist. That's right.
And the interviewer said, "Well, what changed your mind?" He said, "The facts."
Absolutely.
he said the facts. What made me leave that was the facts.
Right.
You know, and that's what we don't, as black people. I explained to my friend, I said, look, I said, we are all emotional. I said, we need to start thinking like Spock, right? Mm-hmm. What was Spock? He ain't have no feelings. It was just what was logical and what was not logical. We black people need to think like that. Like, well, look, this is how we need to act. Get out your feelings sometime because they play on your feelings. A girl calling me damn near in tears, right, telling me Trump is going to take Medicaid and Medicare, and she's damn near in tears, right, worrying about her mother. And AJ, and that's why I wrote that article. The bill is not going to do that, right? Like, and they got people going crazy.
Well, that's the politics of fear. That again, that's what the Democrats do. It's about fear, and again, when you're fearful, that means you're emotional. So you're not thinking straight. And so, you know, yeah, I mean, that's the problem that we really have. And it's so deep and embedded in our community that we have to really, really have a reorientation of our thinking when it comes to politics. There's plenty of things in life to feel for. I feel passionately about my faith. I feel passionately about my family. I love my children. There's plenty of things to have those kind of visceral emotions about. Politics doesn't have to be one. I don't trust most politicians as far as I can throw them. I mean, most of them are okay, but let's face it. Once you become elected as an elected official, you may have been an activist, but now you're a politician, and you got all these different forces against you. And so we don't want to say we believe in them. We want to say we think they're pretty good, but we need to watch, trust, and verify.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, and I don't know, man, because, you know, after a while, what are black people going to do? Because when you have these discussions and then they point out, look at the conditions of black communities that are run by Democrats.
Right.
You know, you can't argue that.
That's a strong argument. That when you look at all these major cities, that's a strong argument.
I actually wrote an article, and I did a lot of research, and it says some of our biggest cities have been destroyed by Democrats. Again, since everything is local, Mount Vernon is a mostly black-run city. Mm-hmm. We have a black mayor, a mostly black city council. We have we had a black police commissioner. I'm not sure what our police commissioner is now. Black superintendent of the school. Like, and we're only 4.2 square miles. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we should be, as Damon keeps saying, the Wakanda of Westchester. Yeah. But our elected officials are giving away, not selling, giving away our vibranium. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, we can't get it right. And when I cover all these rallies and marches and protests, most of the things they're fighting for, we have. They're fighting for
That's
higher black people in
absolutely.
leadership and in the mayor's seat and the police commissioner and leadership. We have those things. And we can't get it right. You understand what I'm saying? And again,
listen.
I had a conversation. The first person I had it with was Ernie, and I've had it with a lot of other elected officials. Y'all benefit on the electorate being uninformed or misinformed. You don't do anything to inform them. You know what I'm saying? And empower them. You know what I mean? And so that's how you have these things. And when you're misinformed, other people can tell you stuff,
right?
And you don't have the information to no, that's not true. And we're not, our people are not verifying something. Like I could write something on Facebook today or say something on this show right now and share it on social media, and many other black people in my city and in Westchester County will reshare it, and then their people, because they shared it, believe it's true and I just made this thing up. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? Because no one is confirming. Nobody is seeing if this is true. They just, so, and that's on us. We can't blame. I had to get to a point. I was married. I'm no longer married, but I had to get to a point where I can't blame my wife for decisions I made. You understand what I'm saying? Like, seriously, there were some decisions I made, and I knew she was on that, whatever she was on, and I decided to engage her and go there and get my blood pressure up. I cannot no longer blame her for decisions I make. Black people, we could stop blaming others for decisions we're making or not making.
And you're right. And that's why I think even our conversation design has to change.
Absolutely.
Like, there's no revolution that needs to take place, okay? I mean, people... you hear people, we're in a revolution. What revolution? The revolution has been fought. The civil rights movement, the Black Power movement. Malcolm X died never, ever imagining he couldn't even formulate the thought of Michelle Obama, Sasha Malia, President Barack Obama, and the mother-in-law living in the White House. That would have been unimaginable to him, okay?
Right,
And so my point is, the civil rights movement was about three things: the Voting Rights, Public Accommodations Bill, Fair Housing Act. All three of those were passed. Check, okay? So that means that part is over. We got that. Then, of course, we wanted to, as African Americans, gain access to capital. We've had 60 years of jobs. Washington's middle class was built on DC government jobs and federal government jobs. Where'd all that money go? Did it just go to parties and Congressional Black Caucus and fur coats? Why didn't we build anything? I mean,
exactly.
New York, same thing. I mean, we have everything we need. We're not fighting any revolution, okay? There's no need for a revolution. What struggle? The only struggle is for us to come together and make wise decisions and do the things that we know that we have to do. That's the struggle. I mean, that is the biggest struggle that we have as Black people. That's just straight up. Because as you said, everything we need, we have. And as strong as we are, nobody could stop us if we were together.
Exactly. We got 1.5.
And our enemies know that, and know that as long as they can keep this tension between us and keep us adversarial, light skins against the blacks, the East versus the West, whatever, there's always a division. There's always something. And as long as they can keep that going, you got to figure, if you could sit back and not lift a finger and get your enemies to fight amongst themselves and take each other out.
Absolutely.
Without you doing anything.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's what it is. Like we have to do better. And until we do better, like we made a comment before and Damon made it after, specifically Damon got some flack for saying this. Black lives matter. Black lives have to matter to Black people before they can matter to someone else. And Black lives matter.
No. No. The author of that is the great late Hafiz Muhammad.
No. I wasn't saying that, but I'm saying when you said it, you were getting there was a couple of knuckleheads.
Oh yeah.
They
When
were
he
giving
said it, nobody say nothing.
Right,
When
that's what
I
I'm
said
saying. Right, that's what I'm saying. But until Black Lives matter to Black people,
right?
Why should they matter to anyone else? And when you talk about the revolution and the struggle and all that, I keep telling people, nothing we got as a people in this country was given to us because it was the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
It's because we fought for it.
We fought
very different ways. Some of it was violence, but
absolutely.
But we fought for it, and we refused. They didn't let them people back on the bus because it was the right thing to do.
Right.
They stayed off the bus for over a year, and that bus company was about to go bankrupt. They were like, give them Negroes whatever they want, but get their butts back on the bus.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Let them sit wherever they want if that's the issue. We have to fight for it. And I say as Black Westchester, I'm tired when me and Damon are joining you for your fight. And when the rocks come back, why are we the only ones getting hit? Where are you at? This is your fight. We were here to fight with you, not fight for you. And I'm no longer fighting for people who won't. Now who can't, because we will always fight for those who can't.
Right.
Who won't fight for themselves. Yeah. I'm not going out there and putting all my political capital and everything on the line for you, and you won't fight for yourself. And I say that as a Black man. I say that as a Black man. So why do we expect white people to give us things and do things for us that we won't do for ourselves? Go ahead,
brother. We're always distracted. Like, you got Black folks talking about this boycott. Okay, I always support boycott. I think Black people need to take their money, support Black businesses. But I think that's what I was saying. But here you got Negroes talking boycott, but they're taking people off of the things that which actually happening in government is that crypto prices rally, right? Because Trump is talking about a crypto reserve. These are the things we need to keep our eye on to create generational wealth.
Wait, and they got on Eric because he said he wanted his first 2 checks or whatever in crypto. Remember that? Remember when he first said that? Everybody was calling him an idiot and calling him was crazy. He was all this.
And we're not paying attention, brother. We're not paying attention. And the thing is, you got Democrats fighting against people getting $5,000, right? So I'm like, and then you got Crockett talking about we don't need the money. Everybody need $5,000.
Right. No, she doesning need the money. The people in Congress,
much money
that's why they won't pass that bill to stop them from being in the stock market, because
that's right.
Everybody that goes to America, their network goes to Congress, their network increases. Net worth increases exponentially. So she doesn't need $5,000. That's nothing to her. But we we all could use it.
Exactly. And then take that money and invest in crypto. Don't go buy Gucci bags or anything. Take that money and invest in crypto. We have to begin to look at things. How do we benefit from these things as Black people? Stop whining and stop worried about things that really not even affect you. DEI, and you ain't benefit from that.
You're right. 4% of the jobs, DEI covers everything from people with disability. It's everything. It's not a Black, and it's an important issue. But why do they present it as a Black issue? You know why?
Exactly.
They know that the loudest voices, the most emotional people, Black people will fight for something. And what we don't have sense enough to do is ask ourselves, what are we really fighting for? Now you got Black people in social media today. I stand with Ukraine over our president. I mean, so really, you fight, you stand with Ukraine, okay? You stand with a corrupt government, and you want us to continue to spend what? Some say 70 billion, some say 300 billion. You want us to do that because you stand with Ukraine. So what next? Are you going to send your children to die in Ukraine?
Wait,
Is
wait,
that
wait.
you ready for your sons? How much do you stand for Ukraine?
But
Exactly.
you know what? You know what? Those same people who say that don't understand that when we ask for something, they said they don't have money for it, but they got 300 billion or whatever it is to send to Ukraine. And why are we not? We are not working on the issues. That money could be working on the issues here, like
Right.
Make
And you do
America
have a
great again. To be
president,
like make
and at least you have a president who's saying, "Look, we can't continue to fund." I mean, what Trump is saying to Europe is absolutely right.
Exactly.
Listen, Hitler's been dead 80 years, okay? NATO was formed to stop him at a time when he had taken over the European continent, okay?
Right.
Why should Americans, we have areas, listen, we live in a relatively prosperous area, okay? Go upstate New York into some of these
Exactly.
towns. Go to
Exactly.
Ohio. Go to Pennsylvania. Go to West Virginia. Just whole areas have been wiped out. And why should Switzerland and France, Great Britain, Germany, England, why should we be financing European the protection of Europe? Okay, and Trump has said rather correctly, you guys have to equalize. You
That's right.
got to pay your share. Okay,
That's right.
the whole thing with Zelensky, he's saying, look, if I had been president, and we don't know if this is true or not, but one thing we do know, the war didn't start until Biden came in, okay? And Russia is not going to have NATO at its door. It's just not going to happen. Just like in 1960, the Cuban Missile Crisis was about Kennedy saying to Khrushchev, listen, you're not going to have nuclear missiles 90 miles from us, okay?
Right.
And then, of course, Khrushchev said, well, you got to get your missiles out of Turkey. And that's how they resolved that. Putin's not going to
Right.
let NATO be at his border, okay? The North American
Right.
Treaty Organization is not going to be at the border of Russia. And so he's saying to Zelensky, listen, I can help you get a deal. We'll go into business with you, with your minerals. Therefore, we're on the ground. Russia's not going to attack,
Exactly.
and we can get some billions
Exactly.
back that we've given you
Exactly.
in weapons. But what has happened is the American people are so divided that these leaders come here and they try to play off the American public, the Congress, and the media. Netanyahu does this, and
All
and
the time.
usually the president sits there, basically impotent, but not Trump. Trump said, "Listen, you aren't playing any cards. You don't have any cards to play. Okay, now I'm going to get you this deal." Almost 1 million young men have died over what? And that's one thing I like about Trump. He said we got to stop these endless wars. 1 million young men have died over this war, and basically nothing has changed. And at the end of the day, what are the people posting blue and gold flags saying, Negroes, I stand with Ukraine? What are they ultimately prepared to do? Send their own children, 18, 19-year-old boys, to die over there? The North Koreans sent soldiers over there, and they've been slaughtered. So at the end of the day, if the man is saying, let's get a peaceful deal, to me, that makes sense. I mean, that's the best thing
Right.
I've heard thus far.
And he did the same thing with Netanyahu, but not as direct.
Right.
When he said, well, we'll come over there. And
Yeah.
because what he's saying is, we gave y'all so much money, we're
Yeah.
invested
Yeah.
in Gaza.
Yeah. Now he's going to have more trouble with that because the Arab partners, but again, all these young people who are protesting for the Palestinians, which is correct. But what they don't understand is the Saudis, the Qataris, all these people in these Emirates, they do business with Israel. They talk to Israel.
Exactly.
They're all, any solution is going to involve all of them. So, these are you can't be irrational. And I guess all young people are, and we were, about politics. You can't be irrational about issues. You got to think things through, because at the end of the day, our feelings don't really change anything. It's only working through these kinds of things, looking at the issues when they come up. And one of the things I would say is that, there are issues we're going to disagree with Trump about, but the goal is not to be the first one out to say, look at the latest outrage. He moved General Brown, and people were in an uproar, but he purged a number of generals. And what the average American, I saw Touré, a cultural critic.
Yeah, that was horrible.
I don't know what he thinks he knows about military matters. He probably doesn't know a left face from a parade rest.
That was horrible, brother.
I mean, first of all, the president is the commander in chief of the military. That's not up for debate. There's no. He is the commander in chief. And if he had any military training or paramilitary training, as you gentlemen have, you understand that in a military structure, it's not a discussion. You hear and obey. It is what it is. And so we expend capital on that fight. We didn't remember that he hired the man, but the man was a big advocate for DEI. And now the state Pentagon, they're going a different direction. So that happens. So the point is, what are we going to expend the capital on, the energy? And I don't think we've really figured that out yet. I mean, and that's the part.
Everything is not a hill we need to die on.
Everything is not a hill we need to die on.
But we're misdirected on purpose.
Right.
And I keep a lot of this stuff is on purpose. It's on purpose, because we have yet, pastors are not even talking about, and I was finishing an article on how the Black church itself could create generational wealth just by the 30,000 Black churches supporting 10 businesses and then networking with each other. Each church support 10 businesses. And with the money that's generated through the Black church with the Black members, we could create, we got 2.something% of businesses. We only needed to get it to 7, let's say 9%. If we could get it to 9%, we could change lives. But we still, because how are Jewish people 2%? Right? And they got a large chunk of American businesses.
There was a church in Georgia, a new company, a new Black company. He came to the church. The pastor uplifted whatever he was doing, I don't know, selling the items that he was selling or whatever, and told everybody in that one of those big mega churches to go. He'll be out in the parking lot. They'll be sitting out in the park, buy everything. He was like, yo, for the next months, he was sitting there showing them, bringing carts to the post office for FedEx. He's like, this is the effect of that church, because he had a big congregation. He was talking about Black, supporting our Black companies. He found a Black company that he believed in, told everybody to support it and why they should. And this company grew exponentially because of that pastor saying that one Sunday at the pulpit. You know what I'm saying? So I say that to say it's possible what you're talking about, because it actually is happening. It actually did happen in Atlanta in the last month.
Let me ask you something, Conrad. Now, but now pastors with churches, does any, like, do they ever say, "Hey, look, man, we're going to have we're going to have what the community needs: supermarket, laundromat." You know what I'm saying? Services.
Yeah, there certainly are churches that are doing that across the country. But, one of the things that we have to understand when we say churches, the churches aren't a monolith. You got storefront churches, you got very sophisticated entities and community-based organizations. You got churches that are so heavenly bound they're no earthly good. So it's you got all kinds of churches. But one thing I will agree is that there are enough examples, really, of people who have actually implemented that, that we could draw from the successes. Our issue is coordination, and our issue is sort of developing an overall Black agenda. It really comes
Right.
back to that, and it. See, what I'm beginning to realize is that it's really simple. It's more simple than it's complicated. Booker T.
Right.
Washington gave us, on one level, the roadmap. Okay, he said, "Listen, develop some skills
Right.
that you can sell in the open market." Okay, he was not a big advocate for doctors and brain surgeons because at that time we just hadn't got the basics. In his
Right.
Atlanta Compromise speech, he said, what they call the Atlanta Compromise speech. He said, "Isn't it strange that in Atlanta we have all of these elected officials, but not one we don't own one dairy farm?" And
Right.
so, first of all, I believe Don King said something, Mr. Muhammad understood something. We have to embrace the free market. We have to embrace capitalism. That's something that
Mhm.
we've got to dispense of this socialist notion, Marxist, Leninist stuff. That we've been through that. Okay, that was good in post-colonial Africa and the Caribbean in the 50s and 60s, and some places in the world even today. Maybe that makes more sense. But millions of people are coming to America because there's something that's happening here. All of these immigrants, they're coming. I tell my students every day, ask yourself, if this country was so bad, why are all of these people descending upon this place from all
Right.
over the world? They
Right.
see
Right.
something that we don't see. Number
Sending
one.
their kids to college here. And, yeah.
Number
Mhm.
one, they see that with a dream, with an idea, here you can build something. So we've got to embrace capitalism, the free market. We got to get out of this Marxist Leninist analysis. If you ask the average Black person, what is capitalism? They say, well, capitalism, it has to have somebody at the bottom. It's that's, and I remind people, when you talk like that, that's a Marxist explanation of capitalism.
Mm.
Capitalism is the free market. It says if I got a hamburger, and then it's good, um, and you got a hamburger and yours isn't as good, people gonna buy my hamburger, okay? And that's why you were able to. That's the free market. It
Right.
just says you listen. You can sell a hamburger, or you can sell drugs, or you can make rap
Right.
records. It's so
Right.
interesting. I never heard one dope dealer say he was a Marxist. I never heard one dope dealer talk against capitalism. But the
Exactly.
thing is, you don't want to sell dope. Don't
Exactly.
take over. Don't corner the market of drugs. We could do this. The Alpo and they could have done the same thing with bodegas. I mean,
Exactly. Exactly.
take over the market of bodegas in any town
Right.
in America. Corner the market. Then get that money, do what you guys are doing. You build a newspaper. Now you're building a radio program. That's an institution. Some people will build a restaurant. Some people will build a school. These are all institutions, and
Right.
that's what we have to continue to do, and embrace. The revolution was fought, but our ancestors put us in a place where our fight is not their fight. We don't have my life is not my life is better than my father's life. My life is much better than my grandfather's life. My children have never really even encountered racism, okay? They got a lot of issues before them, but racism is not in the top 10, okay? And I'm
Right.
just going to be
Right.
honest with you, okay? Okay? And so we have to be honest about that because if we if we don't understand the landscape, we can't make progress. Anybody you hear that's talking like Huey P. Newton, Malcolm X, you should say, brother, that message was great 60 years ago. Now you got to have a new message because the conditions are changed. You understand what I'm saying? It doesn't invalidate all of that. It doesn't say that what they did, it was great, it was important, but they placed us on a mountain. They gave us a different vantage point. Now, what are we going to do with the vantage point that they've given us? That's, to me, I think is the new Black thinking as we move forward. Just, I was raised like you. They taught us not to salute the flag, not to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And we always had that little thing in us where we didn't want to do that because, like, are we letting them off the hook? I mean, but I would say that because of our ancestors, like you said, AJ, they didn't change the laws in the South because they wanted to. They changed it because of courageous people like Miss Rosa Parks. They like E.D. Nixon, like Martin Luther King Jr. That's who made them change it. And because they did change it, we don't have the same fight that they had. So what are our fights? Our fights really are us getting together and continuing to make good things happen. That to me, I think, is our greatest struggle.
I wanna first two things. One, I want to invite you to come back as often as you want.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Since we are, we like to we're going into 3 hours now. I wanted to give you last words and end this. And then I believe I come from the school of leave them wanting more than giving them too much. So
I got it. I think we've said enough. The only thing I'm going to say is Eric Adams has done a fantastic job in New York City. We need to support him. One thing Barack Obama said, don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. He's not Jesus, but he's a good mayor. And Blacks have access to City Hall. They have access to city contracts, have access to jobs and city government. And it doesn't make sense to me for Black people to say Eric should step down. And Andrew Cuomo just announced today, and Cuomo left office in disgrace. He's got scandals that, believe me, we're going to hear about because there are thousands of people who feel like he did a terrible job during COVID. And a lot of their parents died in nursing homes because of his policies. Women have not forgotten the women that he's accused of being inappropriate with. And so to me, one of the critical things, and I'll leave you with this, that's going to demonstrate that Black people have come of age in this city is if Black ministers stand up and say, we got to keep City Hall. If Black elected officials, Tish James, Hakeem Jeffries, come to their senses and say, Percy Sutton, the architect of so much Black power, Al Vann, our forefathers, they would say, hold City Hall, okay? Hold on to what you got. B.W. Smith, the late great Baptist minister in Buffalo, he preaches a sermon. You should listen to it tonight, Damon and AJ. It'll teach you about what we need to do in New York right now. He said, the sermon was entitled, "You got what you wanted, and you lost what you had." And for those of us who remember when David Dinkins left and Giuliani came in, I think it would be unwise, foolish, and almost suicide for us to take Eric Adams out of office and put Andrew Cuomo in. That would be the most foolish thing that we've ever done. So that's my hope, that we'll come to our senses, preachers, elected officials, people in the region. Let's start pumping the message. Keep Eric in 4 more years. That's what we got to push for. It'll get better in the next 4 years, but we got to get 4 more years.
I want to just say one thing, sure. And then we're going to keep it moving. When you made a comment and you were saying that your kids haven't encountered racism, it's not that they have not seen any sort of racism. What you said was, out of the many things that they got to deal with, racism is not at the top of it, as it was for you, and it was for your grandparents, and it was for your parents. Not that it doesn't exist, because he said your kids haven't encountered racism. Really, right. it's not as big a problem as it was for your father and your grandfather.
And that's important. And that's important for us to admit, because these kids today need to understand, damn it, you don't have no structural legal barriers from you doing what you want to do. If you want to be a doctor today, you can do it. If you want to be a police commissioner, you can do it. If you want to be on the police force, you can do it. Yeah, okay.
If you want to start your own business, if you want to be an entrepreneur and start your own business,
you can start a business. Sure, you can always be able to go to some obscure town in Westchester and find some racist cracker. I mean, that's not the measure of it. What I'm saying is, our grandparents literally lived in a society where they were second-class citizens. They legally were disenfranchised. They could not vote. They could not eat in certain restaurants. They could not go certain places. Our great-grandparents lived under the Dred Scott. They had no law that a white man was, no rights that a white man was obligated to respect. We don't live in that kind of day anymore. So let's be honest about that. Let's shed the shackles of that and celebrate that we don't. And I feel like too many Black people, we want to hold on to the possibility that we can play that card in case we run into it. And many of us who are 60, you and me, we're in that age where we come out of that world, but we really have to be honest. You know, the progress of our people have brought us to a different place. And we need to teach our children, get your behind up and go be whatever you want to be. Don't tell me about no racism. The only racism they hear is young white and Spanish kids talking about nigger, 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 because you taught them to do that in a rap record. So get your backside moving and do what it is that you want to do. You can be anything you want to be in this country today. And AJ, you're right, not because they wanted to, but because we fought. That's my point. See, some people will say, oh no, he's saying there's no racism. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is our movements and our people fought enough to destroy structural racism, okay? I don't see the Ku Klux Klan. I don't see any voter disenfranchisement. I see Negroes that don't go vote on election day. That's what I see. Now, if you show me some pictures of KKK, I'll accept that. But I haven't seen, I hear all these politicians talking, they're trying to disenfranchise us. Everywhere I go in Mount Vernon and all these places, I see Negroes sitting around that won't go vote. And there's a difference between disenfranchisement and people who just won't get up and show initiative. And we need to be
we are worse our own worst enemy. As Kumo D said, I never ever ran from the Ku Klux Klan. I shouldn't have to run from a Black man.
There you go.
So I'm gonna
God bless.
Yeah. We're gonna Damon, any last words?
Just hold on. I meant to put something too. Check us out tomorrow. Hold on a second. Hold on. Just talk, AJ. Let me bring this thing up.
All right. So we whether we just like to give information, and I just got a text. Darren Morton, the controller of the city of Mount Vernon, will present jointly with the Mount Vernon City School District on property taxes at the Mount Vernon City School Board of Education regular meeting at 6:30 this Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. Again, with everything being local. You got a problem with your school district. You got a problem with the taxes. You got a problem with what's going on in City Hall. They're having a joint meeting. Now, that place should be packed. And the important thing, and this is what I want to leave everybody with, and I say this everywhere, we have to come to these meetings not only to be heard, but to hear.
Right.
Because that's the only way it works. Like, everybody wants to be heard, and then they want to make a big thing, and then they leave. Like, but you're not coming there to hear, and until we come to hear, nothing will ever be done. So I'm not saying any of these factions are the all the be all and they all whatever, but they're gonna meet, and there's gonna be a meeting that's gonna be dealing with the school district, and it's gonna be dealing with the taxes that's owed, and it's gonna be dealing with all that. Everybody needs to come out Tuesday, March 4th. 6:30 at the Board of Education regular meeting. If you don't show up, like, we can't keep complaining if we're not showing up. Like, we gotta stop that. Like, yo, We don't go to the city council meetings. We don't go to the school board meetings. We don't go to the county legislature. Most people don't even know there are county legislative meetings.
And we don't go to jury duty. We complain.
We don't go to jury duty. We have the first black commissioner of jurors in Westchester County who came on the show and is trying to get more of us on juries. So when they said judged by a jury of your peers, it will actually be a jury of your peers. That's one of the things we talk about for criminal justice. We don't talk about that part, which is one of the biggest things we can do for criminal justice is be on some of those juries that we're being judged on.
That is very important. I don't know if a lot of people in Westchester will remember Messiah Baptist Church. And at Messiah Baptist Church, there was a Baptist minister by the name of Reverend Darrell George. Reverend George pastored in Yonkers, but he lived in Millburn, New Jersey. And I'll give you a perfect example. He got into a racial issue with his son in Millburn at the school. He was charged, his son was charged. And Millburn's a sort of lily white town in Essex County. But the fact that his grand jury hearing, I came to his aid and we brought perspective to the case. But the fact that his grand jury hearing was in Newark, okay, because that's the seat of Essex County. Reverend George said when he saw those jerseys and gold chains and big pants, he knew that he wouldn't be indicted. And of course, not only was he not indicted, but the white boys that beat up his son, they were arrested. And so our being there in the jury system, all of that's so important. And going to City Hall, you're not going because you want to fight Whitey and that. You're going for your economic interests. You want to see what are they going on? What kind of taxes are they trying to push? That's the way we got to think. And I guess the last place where racism affects us is in the criminal justice system. To me, I think, the brothers that get arrested and pulled into the system, I think that's really the last real bastion of systematic racism. I think, if you keep young people out of the system, generally speaking, that they'll do all right. But when we fall behind the system, then of course, and a lot more systematic racism exists. So,
but brother, that still falls on us because we vote for the mayor that appoints the police commissioner.
Right.
And a lot of times we don't even turn out for the district attorney race.
Yeah.
And we don't look at we cannot, or we haven't put that coalition together. We have to have a competent mayor that's going to hire a competent police commissioner, that's going to have accountability and transparency of his police department. Then we gotta show up and show out for who we vote for district attorney, because not all cases, like some cases are determined on your district attorney and what district attorney, what ADAs that they hire around them.
Right.
So we can't blame nobody but ourselves when we don't turn out. Fact of the matter is, Jamal Bowman race, the Jews had 6,000 absentee ballots. Guess what the total of Mount Vernon, the total vote of a city of 80,000 people, 6,000. They had just as many absentee ballots as a whole city.
Right. And listen, in Newark, New Jersey, a city of 300,000 people, Raz Baraka was elected mayor with 13,000 votes. I mean, it's just, I'm just saying, I mean, it's not racism. That's what I'm saying. The Jamal Bowman's race was not racism. I mean, listen, you got Jewish people in that district for which Israel is a number one issue for them. Okay, I don't care who it was. If you're running against this, you're going to have a problem with us. Now, Black people needed to define their interests. But the question was Jamal Bowman, and I don't live in Westchester, I don't judge politicians in areas. So was he working in, did he touch the issues for African Americans? I don't know. You all have to decide that. I know AOC and all of them are not
Well, you know
interested
what?
in the black
Here's the
empowerment.
problem.
Yeah.
He was, but his understanding of what Westchester black people were, they're different from the Bronx.
Yeah.
You can't. And I told him, I said, bro, you can't stand at the podium talking about revolution in Greenberg.
Right. Absolutely.
What's wrong with you?
And that's the point. That's the point.
Exactly.
Black politics. Leave the left alone. Leave this Marxist-Leninist crap alone. The communists have been talking about this for since the 30s. There ain't never gonna be no revolution against America. And communists, show me a communist country you want to live in or a socialist country you want to live in. I'll help you raise the money to buy the ticket. Okay. So let's just talk to people where they are, and
That's right.
People care about their home, their family, their children, health care. Stay focused on those issues. And people are not looking for, listen, you're not Malcolm X if you got a government salary and health care plan, okay? You're not. So stop trying to act like that. You're not Malcolm X, okay?
Hey, man, I was out there hitting them.
I'm glad to say I ain't got none of that. So
but what I'm saying is you're a legislator. Malcolm did his job, but you don't have to do that. Just be a great legislator. That's fine. I mean, that's what if you're an activist, that's one thing.
Right.
But my point is, if you're in Congress,
no,
performative stuff is not going to help us. Let's get some legislation passed that will help us. That's what we need. You know what I mean? We don't need the congressman. Let the activists talk about revolution or whatever they're going to talk about. Congressmen, sit down with those Republicans, come up with some legislation where you can come back and say, this is going to help you.
Absolutely.
I just want to say,
yes, sir, brother. We got to bring you back, man. We got to bring you back.
I want to say in closing, talking about local issues, we complain about the school. We have a school board election coming up in the next month or so, in the next couple of months. Why is that important? Because like your mayor appoints your police commissioner, your school board appoints your superintendent of the school. You understand what I'm saying? So if you want things to change, that's how you make change. These races are very, you get a couple of hundred votes. You get like almost 1,000 votes. You can win. Right. You can win one of those because nobody shows up. Library trustee, you get 200 votes, you might win. You know what I'm saying? We got to do better. And we can't complain. So one of the biggest issues is our school. Forget about what's happening nationally. What about the school? We have an election coming up. Find out who these find out who these trustees are. Find out the ones who's been there for the longest, that's still there. Find out who's running, what they're about, and make informed decisions. And put what you want in a superintendent. So that when you vote these people in, they have to make those choices. You know what I'm saying? This is how you make a difference. Then you will be able to fix some of the things in your school district. We had a show about the whole thing about charter school and public school, and I seen a couple of those comments come up. We talked about that last week. We're not doing that this week. But, this is how, instead of complaining, what are you doing to help the public school system? What are you doing to make it better? Whether you got kids or not, it is your problem. It is your issue, because these kids don't get educated. They're going to be knocking you upside your head, taking your pocketbook when you're 70 years old. So it is your problem. You understand what I'm saying? And your tax dollars pay for this stuff. So it is your issue, whether you have kids in the district or not. Be involved. And on all levels, be involved. If you're not involved, shut the fuck up. You have nothing to say. I don't want to hear from you. Excuse my language. I'm tired of hearing people complain and they're not doing anything. We've said it the politically correct way. We've said it the nice way. We've said it all. I don't know. I don't speak any other languages. I don't know any other way to say it. So that's how I said it. Somebody's going to say I cursed and said the F word, and they're going to get mad at me. So what? The point is, get involved. What they say, shit or get off the pot. Get involved or shut up. That's all I have to say.
Comes down to.
And that's on every aspect of what's going on here. All the things we talked about. Right. Get involved or shut up.
Right.
And with that, we're closing the show on that one. Get involved or shut up.
Peace. I love it. Thank you, brothers. Have a good evening.
Thank you, brother. And tomorrow, everybody, check out Tasha Young, Elevation Nation at 6 p.m. with Reverend Margaret Coleman. We kicking off Women's History Month.
Yes.
So check us out tomorrow at 6 p.m. And I want to thank your brothers, man.
And Conrad, before we go, the lady that's going to be on the show tomorrow, Margaret and her husband, Margaret and Frank Coleman, are the new pastors of Messiah Baptist in Yonkers that you were just talking about.
Oh, yeah, I know
they
Frank Coleman. He was at Tuckahoe. Okay.
Right. They are the pastors
okay, wonderful.
Of Messiah Baptist Church in Yonkers. So that's who's going to be on.
Okay, wonderful.
So this has been Black Westchester presents the People Before Politics radio show. We are on every Sunday, 6 to 8. Sometimes we go a little overtime, as you see. Sometimes we cut it a little short when ain't nothing going on.
Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Black Westchester Magazine is the news with the Black point of view.